Hello and welcome to another episode of You Might Want to Sit Down for This Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Von Helvet. We got episode 18. 18 in life, you got it. I wonder how many episodes I can associate with old butt rock songs. Skid Row, what the fuck's up? I think last time I did some Winger. This is a winger of an episode with my good pal, Dan DUVALL. Dan is the network director for Comedy Here Often, which is where this fucking podcast goes down. He's a stand-up comedian. He's a stand-up dude. He's got a lot of credits, man. Fuck, he was on a rad documentary. I think he produced it too. Funny tweets. He's a writer, and he's got a rad-ass story, man. And woman and everyone else who's fucking checking this out. Dan was living like a double life. So just kind of like getting by, and lots of opportunities were falling in his lap, but he was like hiding an addiction, and a real serious one. And we get into it. We really get into it in this episode. And guys, just like an open book, which I really respect, man. Like I just spent probably the whole day pretty much editing 10 hours, probably editing the promo video for this, and I kind of hate him because I spent so much time on it, but I actually love him more than I did before, because I just gained even more respect for how the journey he's been on, where he's at, and just what a positive rad dude he is. So I feel it's a real inspiring podcast episode. I just fucking realized that I've yet to do what I've been doing the last few, so I'll do it now and just say that this podcast comes to you from the traditional territory of the unceded Coast Salish land of the Katzie, Kwantlen, Makwi, and Stolo people. Unceded land, meaning never surrendered. It is important to understand the long-standing history that was brought together on this land. To hear this episode that comes from my home, that is on this land, with Dan DUVALL. Gonna be playing some music from fucking Lagwagon, because Dan loves Lagwagon, I love Lagwagon, you probably love Lagwagon. If you don't, maybe you will after this episode, or you'll be like, you don't love Lagwagon. Fuck, I don't know, whatever. It's not up to me to make you love Lagwagon, but I fucking dig Lagwagon. So does Dan. Shout out to fucking Fat Records. Realize just kind of watching these back a few times, I've sort of neglected saying what's up to them, because they've been cool enough to let me rip their tunes. And they got a lot of rad bands like Lagwagon. So that's where that's coming at. Shout out to Alexi, 604 Records, Comedy Here Often, everyone who follows, shares, likes, comments. Just so you know, the YouTube vids, check that out. YouTube, sit down for this podcast. I put a lot of time. There's always a little extra stuff in those. Check it out. And anyone who's commenting or anything, that's always me. I make sure that I get back to everybody and write them back. So feel free to comment and like and share and do all that shit. I feel like kind of redundant that I keep fucking saying this over and over, but who knows? Maybe it's your first time listening, or maybe you listen all the time and you're like, Kevin, stop telling me to fucking do that. Because I know when I listen to podcasts and they're like, please follow, share, I'm like, shut the fuck up. Because you're going to fucking do it or you're not. So, I don't know. It's just like a formality or something. But I feel like I'm rambling here. I got to go to bed. I'm heading off to Vancouver Island tomorrow to kind of host like a fucking music festival. The first part of it anyway. And for 2 days with my buddy Zach. Going to be doing a show with Brian O'Gorman's show. Herman's Jazz Club. Excited to go out to Victoria, see some friends, do some comedy. So I gotta get my ass to bed because I gotta get on a fucking ferry tomorrow and cruise over to the islands. So that'll be Back to the Future by the time you hear this shit. And hopefully all goes well. Hopefully everyone's doing well. Hopefully you enjoy this episode with the very inspiring and fucking hilarious Dan DUVALL.
I'm alright. Tell me
So I got Dan DUVALL here from Comedy Here Often, and let's say I don't know what else he does, but Dan,
Hi.
I haven't had a comic on the show in a long time. Do you know any? Do you know any?
Yeah, I know a few.
Cool.
Yeah, I know a few. If you're looking, I can probably help you out. Hello.
Have you ate any of their asses out lately?
No, not yet. No, not yet. But the day is young.
Yes.
It's not even 1 p.m. yet, so plenty of time left in the day to eat some ass like some
Yeah.
comedians. Yeah. Hi. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Yeah, man, it's good to have you, buddy. I'm a fan. We love you. Stoked to have you on
Thanks.
here.
Right on, man. That's great. I love you. I'm also a fan of you. It's good to be here. Are we gonna just suck each other's dicks for an hour? Or?
I was gonna say, should we put our cameras on our cocks and like camera dock?
Camera Doc the Cox.
Yes.
Yeah, man. Hi. It's good. Thank you for having me here. Kevin said my name is Dan DUVALL. I'm the podcast network director at Comedy Here Often, and I'm also a stand-up comedian and a stand-up guy also.
Unlike me.
Unlike some of us.
I beat you to your punchline, you bastard.
You did. You stepped all over it.
I haven't stepped on anything in a long time, Dan.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, I feel like I'm walking around on eggshells with you.
I won't stand up in court. Neither will I.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's not. I'd like to say that's going to be the last wheelchair joke that comes out of me today, but it's probably not accurate.
It's probably gonna be the last wheelchair that comes out of you either. So you're a whore. For cripples. Let's go. So I wrote some notes here, which they're in my phone.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay.
I wanted to bring up. We're gonna delete that first part. So that in America, which is basically Alberta, which is where you are,
Yes.
they're taking cow and horse dewormer as a preventative measure to not get COVID. Have you taken it yet since you're in Alberta?
No, I haven't. I hadn't thought of doing that because I'm not a fucking idiot. It's not just Alberta where they're doing that though. I saw on for the record, I don't live in Alberta. I'm just here. I'm doing comedy stand up in Edmonton and Calgary.
Nobody on the
Last
YouTube.
couple weeks.
Nobody on YouTube will believe you. The people listening might, but YouTube, they're gonna look at you and be like, "That guy is Alberta for
I'm
sure."
not. What's Alberta about me? What are you talking about? Look, here, I'll pull my sleeves up, and then you can see that I have sticker book tattoos, which is very West Coast. So you can see that I'm not an Albertan. Although I just held up my arm, and the first thing you can see is a horse.
It says "Giddy Up."
It says "Giddy Up" on it. So that's all right. I guess we're okay. All right, cool. But no, I'm in Edmonton right now. But I'm from Victoria, BC. I live on Vancouver Island in BC on the West Coast, and it's apparently sold out there too. Like people are doing it. Is Joe Rogan the most powerful man in America? Is that what's happening? Because he's the one who said to take it, I think, and now everybody is eating it. Is Joe Rogan the most powerful man in America?
He might be.
In North America.
Tucker Carlson, I believe, was promoting it too.
I don't think people go insane though for stuff that Tucker Carlson says in the same way that Joe Rogan does. I don't think Tucker Carlson fans are spineless dickwads. They're the pussies. Joe Rogan fans are like, whatever he says, like he'll find us and kill us if we don't do it. Like they're like crazed. They're insane.
But to all of them right now, I ran him over with my wheelchair accidentally once, and he shrieked like a little girl. He's a pussy, and any one of you could punch him out. He's a fraud.
I don't know about. I don't think I could punch out Joe Rogan. I'm gonna go on record and say right now that I don't think I can punch out Joe Rogan.
You think you're gonna meet Joe Rogan one day, and he's gonna advance your career? He's definitely not gonna mind because he probably remembers me from running him over. So
I'm not saying that. I'm saying I physically could not harm Joe Rogan. I couldn't, you could kick my ass for sure.
I couldn't kick it.
Well, no, you could.
Fist it?
You could fist my ass. We are off to a hot start. This is a lot of fun.
I wanted this to be a mess. I honestly did. The last podcast I did was with John Scheimer, and he's like an old punk rock fucking legend dude who like books shows and is a tour manager and stuff. And it kind of felt like the whole time the show was about to go off the rails, but it didn't. And I was like, I like that. I'm into
like
this.
You're like edging, but with the podcast going off the rails.
Yeah. Totally.
Okay. No, I don't know what the hell is going on with the horse dewormer thing. To be honest, I have a hard time. Like, really digging into social media and like actual issues like that, because I just get so mad. Like they were protesting hospitals yesterday.
That was
I
insane. I had a
can't.
show last night and I wanted to start with, hey, are any of those people who are at that idiot rally like tonight or today? And I totally forgot to do it.
Oh, whoops. What
Yeah.
show are you? Well, we can get people on the
It
podcast.
was called the
We can,
Comedy Fix at the American in like East Van. I think it went over all right.
oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a fun crowd.
Yes.
That's a good venue.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, man, there's just like people are protesting hospitals. It's wild. It's so crazy. And I just like, I've recently come to the conclusion that having strong opinions is exhausting. Like having strong opinions to the point where it's going to dictate the actions of your life, like just walking around mad is, it's not for me anymore. I can't do it. I think I did that for like a long time and now I just can't. I definitely was like really outspoken on the internet for quite some time during quarantine, like when we were all locked down, especially about like BLM stuff and like anti-police, because I really do dislike the police a lot. But like, I just can't live in that space where I'm angry about it. Like, I'm not going to be angry enough or like contrarian enough to like take horse dewormer. Do you know what I mean? Like, where
Yeah.
do you have to be in your life where you're going to hear Joe Rogan or Tucker Carlson or whoever else be like horse dewormer actually is the way to go? Like, what kind of mental state do you have to be in for you to take, like, actually go out and get that and take it and be like, well, we did it. This is it.
Yeah.
Like, I just can't be that upset or contrarian or like, or opinionated or sure about anything to the point where that's going to happen. Like, I have to look at like the vaccine. People are like, I don't know what's in it. I'm not going to take it. Well, dude, you don't know what's in Tylenol, and you take that.
You don't know
You're
what's
no,
in that rail of cocaine you did off the back of a
totally,
fucking bathroom toilet in a fucking strip
absolutely,
club the other day.
absolutely. You don't. You eat anytime you eat in a restaurant. You're not in the kitchen watching what's happening. Anytime that you are driving your car on the road, you don't know who's driving the other cars around. Like, there's so many instances in your life where you just sort of trust the greater good, and
Yeah.
like it's so much more to me trustworthy that like, okay, if I get the vaccine, like if you get it, vaccines have been proven to work for like how long, right? Like forever. Like
At
it's
least
such a
hundreds of
bad
years.
place. It's a bad place to be, to just be, if you start not trusting scientists and doctors. Like, I know big pharma and medicine, I think, are two different things,
Very
right? Like,
much.
and so I don't think big pharma is a good thing. I think it's one of the most evil industries in the world. I think it's super corrupt and awful. But
As is private
I think
healthcare.
that, yeah, this is a different thing. This is
Yeah.
like this is a very different thing. Like, every country in the world isn't like coming together to get you. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
that's
that's the one thing I want to
crazy.
say to everyone who thinks that, like, okay, you think the Canadian government's, there's no way that it, like, for one, what's the end game? Two,
Right.
there's no way every fucking country in the world can agree on the same fucking thing and have the same goals and same purpose on. That just
No.
that does not make sense.
No, it's not. And I think what it comes down to is it's not so much about actually people actually caring about their health or like being worried about what they're putting into their bodies or whatever. And people just don't like being told what to do.
Yeah.
So that I get. I get how you're like, you can't force me to do it. Now that you're forcing me, I'm not going to. And I'm going to freak out and I'm going to protest a hospital because people are mad and angry that they're being told what they can and can't do. And so they're lashing out like a temper tantrum child the exact same way that kids do when you tell them they can't do anything. It's human nature. I do
Yeah.
understand that. I think people need to stop and take a goddamn breath and back up and chill the fuck out. But like, yeah, I do get it. Like, and
But dude, I mean, every fucking our whole lives, there's things we can't do. Don't drink and drive. Fucking wear
yeah.
shoes and a shirt when you go into a restaurant. Like,
Whoa, hold on. I don't know about
well, I guess
that.
I forgot you're in Alberta.
Yeah, man. You're lucky if I don't spit on the floor when I walk into Ricky's.
Yeah, I just
Why
saw
does
like a.
Edmonton have so many Ricky's all day grills? Why? It's crazy how many Ricky's all day grills are here. It's a weird thing.
I don't know.
Anyway, it's like they're like Starbucks in Vancouver, but here it's Ricky's. Like, it's wild.
I've never noticed. I've been there a few times, but I generally just drive through it.
Yeah,
Like,
city of champions, more like city of all day breakfast at Ricky's.
well, they had to be something after because they took down this. They had like a fucking
A sign.
statue or something. I
Yeah,
think that said "City of Champions," and they
yeah,
finally
they
just
got rid
gave
of it.
up and took
Yeah,
it
well,
down.
you haven't won anything in quite some time, and the Grey
Uh,
Cup does not count. So
decades. 84.
yeah, yeah. So
You look like
anyway,
you're
yeah, man, I
chopping
think.
rails right now. What are you doing?
Oh, just cleaning off my laptop. It's got
Okay,
stuff on it.
cool.
Yeah, I think I just people don't like being told what to do. I get it, and I think a bit like we've been heading towards this for a while because for quite a while because there's so much divisive, non-regulated information all over social media that it's just like you can't tell what is real and what is not anymore. Like
That's true.
we've all been gaslit by the internet. Like it's crazy, and people can't handle it. And it's like now it's getting to the point where you either get the left tube or the right tube. Whatever you end up getting hooked up to,
Porn
then
tube.
that's it, right? Well, yeah. Well, we've all got that. It's like a side little tube that's connected to
Picture in picture.
the right. Yeah, it's like PMP. Yeah. So, but like people our parents' age, I think Facebook messes them up. I don't think that they can't tell the difference between like a fake news feed and like a real one. Like, and it's and it's crazy too because I
I
remember
disagree.
when I
I
was.
think I think it's younger people, man.
Hmm.
Like, well, this is what I noticed. I was at a celebration of life last weekend, and like family thing, and the Brad who passed away was 31. So the majority of the people there were probably early 30s or late 20s, and almost none of the young people in that group. It's from what I could take away from it, and just even like family and stuff and friends I spoke to, younger people don't have the vaccines. So I don't know if that's either they're getting fucking mind warped from social media, or they're like, we're young, fuck it, we're not worried about it, which I think is a pretty selfish thing. Like I took one for the team, but I also wanted to be able to do things. I don't want to get shit put in my body either, but I'm also like, I've done so many drugs my whole life.
Yeah,
I've just put so much
same.
fucking gross shit in my body that this
Yeah.
thing from a fucking doctor and scientist or whatever is probably not gonna be the worst thing I've fucking injected in my body.
Yeah, I mean, for
I've
me,
never
it
had a
comes
drug
down
dealer
to
be like, you need to sit here for 5 minutes before you leave to make sure, like, everything's cool.
yeah, but they should though.
They
Like,
definitely
that's
should
not,
now. Yes.
it's not for the reason for it's not because they care, and it's not because the government cares either. It's because they don't want to get sued.
It's
I
liability.
mean, yeah, it's liability.
Yeah.
The drug dealer's not liable because he's technically not even there.
Yeah. He's not insured.
Yeah. There's no insurance. Yeah. You're not paying with Square. You know what I mean? I used to have a drug dealer I could e-transfer. That was great.
That sounds like a heat score for the
Yeah, it
drug
seemed
dealer.
like a bad idea, but he was cool with it. So I'm like, well, if you don't care, I don't care, man. Whatever.
Yeah, and let's go back a bit because you used to like your drugs and your alcohol, but you cleaned up your act.
I did.
Uh,
Yeah. I used to like drugs and alcohol quite a lot. I got in December. I'll be 4 years clean and sober off all drugs and alcohol completely. I haven't had a drink since December 21st, 2017, and I also quit caffeine. I tried to. I'm like about a year pretty much off of it, and then I tried it again recently and was like, nope. Like
were you
even
like
trying to drink.
twitchy?
Yeah, it makes me so anxious. I can't like I just it doesn't I don't like it at all. So now it's everything. I used to smoke. I smoked like 2 packs a day. I was in really rough shape when I stopped.
You're in really good shape now. Like you've lost a lot of weight. Like I've seen pictures of you from before I didn't know you then, but you weren't fat, but you looked unhealthy. You looked like
I was
you were.
bloated.
Yeah.
But
You
and
looked
I
like
was
somebody
like
was.
I was quite overweight.
Yeah.
Like I was 200 at my worst. My worst health. I was 240 pounds,
Yeah, that's heavy.
and I'm 5 foot. I'm like 5'10", 5'11".
Yeah, like what do you weigh right now?
I weigh right now probably around 165.
Yeah, so you lost almost 140 pounds.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
So yeah, when I was at my worst, I was like, I was 240, and I smoked almost 2 packs a day. I couldn't walk up a flight of stairs without using an inhaler. I couldn't. I couldn't sleep through the night because my breathing was so bad. I was like coughing up blood. The
Fuck.
smoking was really a problem. I was also using cocaine just about every day, and drinking every single day as well, and trying to like just act like my life was normal.
Yeah.
It's crazy what you will like constitute as normal when you're in that place. Like you don't even recognize how bad things are. But now, just like to jump forward now, 4 years later, I've switched careers.
I was
I
gonna
lost
say that
at my
since you sobered up, like things really all went fucking awesome.
Yeah, it didn't happen overnight, but yeah, I got the first I quit drugs and drinking first. That was the first thing to go, and then I quit smoking, and that allowed me to exercise finally. And then the weight started to come off. I started to get really healthy. I stopped. Interestingly enough, when I first got sober, I had no sweet tooth at all. I had
Yeah.
no sweet tooth whatsoever, and then I quit drinking. I think this happens to a lot of people, and I became obsessed with cakes and Dairy
Yeah.
Queen and all sorts of things, and like it became a really big problem. And I ballooned out at first, and then I was like, you know what? What the hell am I doing? To getting sober and changing my life and everything just so that I can like
Be
trash it
addicted.
with food. Like,
Yeah.
what was there was a night specifically where I had this moment. I was going to get food and I was like, I want pizza really bad. And there's this place called Alibaba's where they sell you a piece of pizza. It's so big that they cut it in half. It's like two pieces essentially.
Yeah.
And I wanted that, but I was like, oh, I also want McDonald's though. And I went to Alibaba's and I got pizza, and then I went to McDonald's, and then I sat in the parking lot and ate all of it in my car. I was like,
Oh,
this is not okay. Like that was like a breaking point. I'm like, tomorrow I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna not have any sugary treats at all. And like, I actually got this from Bill Burr, where he used to talk about it in his podcast. I lost a lot of weight once before in my life, and I did it by just the first 3 days. I had to just like only eat salads. That's it. Like salads, like a green salad with chicken on it goes plain. That's it. And just like it's crazy taking away like the bad food in the first like 3 or 4 days is so crazy. Like I could hear myself screaming, especially after I quit drugs and alcohol, and I put sort of the same line of thinking into it. And it was like, yeah, I can hear my addict inside screaming. And now I know every time I take away a coping mechanism, I know that that's going to happen. It's like you thrash, right? You're looking for the next thing. And it's the same thing with like my phone or like dating or like
dicks.
whatever, like dicks in some people's case, for sure not mine, but whatever that might be, right? And I'll thrash and scream. So I did that with food, and so it takes about 3 or 4 days, and then my body just switches like that, and it starts craving the other stuff. And so I get
Healthy.
out of that sugar salt spiral where I'm like something sweet and then something salty. It's like it never stops, and it's just so bad for me. So I have to like right now I'm in the bad food place. I still have not mastered eating well on the road. I've had to.
Tough.
It's
Dude,
not
Albert,
easy. So
when you're
yeah,
surrounded
yeah.
with Rickies.
I ate Church's chicken yesterday for the first time.
Yeah, it's
And then
gross.
this morning I had waffles. It's not. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, but yeah. So I was in really, really bad shape, and so yeah, I quit drinking, quit doing drugs first. Then I quit smoking. Then I lost the weight, and then yeah, I don't know. Everything just sort of changed over time. I started doing stand up again. For the first time in like a couple years.
Because you weren't so fat.
Yeah, I could finally step up onto the stage physically. I finally was able. I mean, you get it.
Yeah, no, I don't. I got lifted onto a stage last night.
Man, whenever they lift you on the stage, you should play the song from The Lion King, The Circle of Life.
That's
Yeah.
great. Yes, I need to.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I don't know. Like, I started doing stand up again. I hadn't done it in so long, and then it was almost like I just needed something to do at night,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, I'll try that again. And I went and did it sober for the first time. I think I was probably about 6 months, between 3 and 6 months sober. And I went and did it, and I was like, oh my god, I love this, because I had done it before, like but not like all the time. Like it was sporadically, and I
Yeah.
did it for all the wrong reasons. I did it so that I could like be like, I'm a comedian or whatever. Like I was like total ego, like bullshit reasons. And then I always felt like that's what I was supposed to do because I was writing for so long before that, and This
I want to
time
get
when I went
into
back to
that
do
too.
it was we can. And this time when I went back, I was like, oh man, I love this. This is so fun. And then I felt there was a connection there with the audience I didn't have before. I don't think like before I was sort of just like
You
trying to
could
deliver
see
my
them.
jokes. Yeah. For one thing, there was less of them. There wasn't double there was before. When
A
you're
lot
drunk
less
and
twins.
yeah. Yeah, when you're drunk and you're high, you're every night it's the fucking Apollo Theater and you're crushing. It's like it turns out not at all. Yeah. Mhm.
But I gotta say I've watched the documentary Funny Tweets. It's on Crave quite a bit. I've watched it many times. I love that story. So that's like, you want to chat about that? Because I think it's so cool, man.
Yeah,
Like
sure.
you were like had you done comedy before then, or that was your
No.
break? Okay, so
No, it's a journey,
go
man.
go.
Well, actually, it's funny because today, like on this day is the 11-year anniversary of me signing up for Twitter,
Yeah, I knew
and
that.
like
That's why I
that
wanted to do
little
this today.
that little liar. I didn't know till this morning. That would be weird as hell if you knew that.
I didn't.
Yeah, I know this. That one little decision, like completely changed the course of my life, and it trips me out. I was thinking about that this morning, and I used to write. So I'd never done comedy at that point in my life ever. It's 2010. I'd never done stand up before. But I wrote. I was always the funny kid. Like I was always the kid who had his desk in the hallway, anything for a laugh, you know. And I used to write funny Facebook statuses all the time, especially when it had like the is in front of it. You know what I mean?
Oh
And
yeah.
you remember when
Yeah.
you had to write is? It was like those days, right? And I'm like, I would write funny shit on Facebook all the time. And I was at a party one night in Victoria, and this girl who I went to high school with was like, her name was Susan Melville. She said, "You should start a Twitter account." And I was like, why? Because Twitter had just come out and I didn't get it. I was like, maybe it had been out for like a year or something. And I was like, it's just what I don't get it. Like you're just posting. It's like Facebook without the pictures. Like you just post like, oh, I'm at the grocery store today. It's like, who cares? No one. I didn't get what Twitter was. Like, I didn't really
I still
understand.
don't really like it's
Um,
But
mhm.
go. But after watching that documentary, I was like, oh wow, I'll get it now.
Yeah, well, that part is dead now, but
Yeah.
yeah, we'll get to that. I mean, like, so I fast forward to a bunch of months later, I'm with my roommate and we're hungover as shit on the couch, and we were watching Sports Center, and the hockey panel dudes were talking and said their names on there for Twitter, and they were at breaking news, and I'm like, oh man, I'm going to sign up for a Twitter account and follow these. None of my friends had Twitter, right? So I'm like, I'm going to
Yeah.
sign up for this. I'm going to follow these guys for my fantasy hockey league, and I'll get ahead of the game, and I'll get ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
So that's what I did, and then my buddy on the couch next to me, Ferg, he signed up too. We both signed up, and then like right away, it was giving me suggestions of people to follow, and the first person I ever saw on there who was funny on there was Rob Delaney, and I followed him, and yeah, I was like, oh, people write jokes on here, and then I found other funny people. Then there was this whole community of like joke writers and funny people and people who wrote for TV shows and all this stuff, and it was really cool, and I was like blown away. I'm like, oh my god, I think I like found my home online. This is
Yeah.
crazy. And so I just started writing jokes. And my first tweet that ever blew up was a tweet that said, my dad went out for cigarettes 12 years ago. They must be training a new guy at 7-Eleven. He's so patient and great. Hurry home, you big lug.
Still holds up.
Yeah, and then there was another one where I said, maybe poor people don't even like food. There's no way to know. Or something like that. There's a few, and then I guess somebody would see it and then repost it, and then those people would repost it, and like you know how things go viral, and so
Yeah.
I had a bunch of tweets go viral, and then I started getting followers, and I got, I remember getting like up to like 500. I'm like, oh cool, like 500 people follow me on Twitter. That's cool, and that turned into 1,000. It turned into 2 to 3 to 5 to 10. Remember when I hit 10,000? I'm like, holy fuck, man! I'm like 10,000 people, and then like I started getting like cool followers, like Andy Richter followed me, and like
Yeah.
Will Arnett followed me, and like just all these like big comedy writers and TV and stuff, and yeah, it just kept growing, and it kind of has plateaued now. Like it stopped, and I ended up like I think I have like 34,000 now or something like that. But Yeah, I don't know. Like it totally changed my life, and it became like a weird obsession for me for a long time. Like definitely alienated some friends, and also I was like drinking heavy and doing drugs, and it became my whole life. Like I couldn't go out with friends without being on my phone constantly. And this is not what this isn't even when we had this is when we had like shitty internet smartphones. You know what I mean? Like before,
Yeah.
like we're talking like iPhone 3 and BlackBerry days. I was tweeting from my BlackBerry, and like but yeah, it was definitely an obsession. I treated it like a job. I would sit down for like an hour and write jokes and stack them in my drafts. So I'm like, cool, I have like 3 days off from writing jokes. And then I would like post them at certain times and everything. And it was like a whole thing. And I still have friends on there that are like people who I made like I have a group chat on there that I've been in for like 5 or 6 years with some really funny people. And yeah, so a lot of people were doing this. I ended up getting a call from I got a message. I got an email from a guy. Oh no, okay. First. There was a show. There was a web series being made in Los Angeles by Amber Tozer, who is a comedian and the author of the book Sober Stick Figure. She's very funny. Her and then another filmmaker, Mark Sayer, were making this show called Funny or Knit Twits, and it was like a sketch comedy show based on people's tweets, and had a good budget. Like people like I think Danny Zucker from Modern Family wrote one. Alex Bays from Late Night with Seth Meyers wrote one, I think. Yeah, it was pretty cool. And so I pitched them an idea for a sketch, and they said yes. And they
Yeah.
it was the first thing I'd ever written that got made, and it got made into a thing. And Stacey Orstano from Friday Night Lights was in it. It was pretty cool. It was like this dumb little sketch from the tweet that was for us, Christmas is whenever. Hold on, no. For us, Christmas is when Dad would drink a bottle of wild turkey and play the acoustic guitar while crying. We had Christmas twice last week. That was the joke, and then we wrote that into a sketch. It was a lot of fun, and then I ended up doing another one. There was another sketch that was based off the tweet. I wish I had a British accent so I could sound cool when I return these women's pants I've accidentally bought. And then yeah, so that was cool. So I met Mark through that, and we worked together a little bit, and then I got nominated for National Lampoon and T Radio V used to do the Twitter Awards,
Yeah.
and so they had like an actual award ceremony at the Improv in Hollywood, and I had my vacation at the time. I was a pharmacy tech at Shoppers Drug Mart.
And a drug addict. Great
And
job for drug
yeah,
addicts.
hey, you know what? I never messed with pharmaceuticals though, ever. Like I only liked cocaine. So, yeah, it somehow wasn't an issue. Anyway, so yeah, Anyway, I had vacation coming in. I'm like, I'm going to go down there. I'm just going to go down there for it. I was a finalist. I was a Final Four for best account under 25,000 followers for this award. So I went, and it was fucking cool. And I met all these rad people. And I was supposed to stay with a friend. And like a few days before I was supposed to stay with him, he called me and he's like, hey, man, you can't stay with me. I'm like moving. All this stuff happened. And I'm like, well, shit, I already bought a flight. So I called Mark Sayer, this guy who I had like written a thing for, and like just shot in the dark. I'm like, hey man, this is kind of crazy, but like, can I stay at your house? And he was like, yeah man, you can stay on my couch. So I showed up at his house for that awards show to hang out for the weekend, and I ended up staying for 8 weeks, and we became best friends.
You stayed in LA for 8 weeks.
I did, and we wrote a pilot together, and he became my writing partner. To this day, he's one of my best friends. He's also got a podcast on our network called Full Blown Coverage. It's a podcast about football with a couple of guys from ESPN, and he's great. He's made some amazing films over the years. He now has his own studio called Lexicon, and they're awesome. They make like thrillers and stuff. Great dude. Anyway, yeah, I didn't win. I got second, but yeah, that kind of launched me into this other place where I ended up doing some like film, like script editing with him. I wrote. We've written, I think, 5 pilots together that we're actively pitching right now that we've made it to like, you know, almost the finish line with a few of them. It happens all the time where you almost get there and they're like, nah, and you're like, shit. And then it gets picked up again, or it picks up again with somebody else. And yeah, we've been going through that process for, God, like 6 or 7 years now. And he's one of my favorite people. So that came from Twitter. And then also I got an email from a guy. This guy said, hey, I work for this ad agency and I'm looking for someone to help me with a jingle for a personal lubricant company. He's like, if
Yeah.
you think this is not real, here's the phone number. Call me. And I'm like, oh, definitely. What adventure comes now? Like, I'm
Yeah,
like, oh,
for
what is
sure.
this?
I
Like,
got.
oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, I think my second podcast. Remember, I sent you that thing. It was like super fucking sketchy, but it was like a ball shaving. It was like shave my balls, but
Like,
it
that
wasn't
was
legit.
not.
It was a
No, no, no,
scam.
no.
But I was
No,
like,
it was a
I'm
scam.
into this. If it's
Yeah, yeah. And I
lube,
was like, no, don't do that.
yeah. But
That's
yeah,
why you have me. I'm here to
yes,
look
it
out for you.
is. Thank
And
you.
then, yeah, so this guy was very legit though, and
His lube jobs were real.
yeah, he was a director who directs commercials, and I ended up working freelance with him over the period of a few years. And we together wrote commercials for Stride Gum, Heineken, Carl's Jr., Halls. This is my favorite claim to fame is, on the Halls, when you get a Halls and the wrapper has little words of encouragement on it.
No, I've never noticed that.
They do. They have like, you can do it, and all these little words of encouragement on like the little wrappers. I wrote those.
What?
Yeah, it's
Crazy.
crazy. That's the
Yeah.
stupidest thing. It's the best flex ever. I wrote the Halls wrappers. They had asked me for like 2 pages of just like quick little things, and didn't even know why I was writing them, and I sent them to them. So yeah, we worked together for years. We tried putting a TV show together too, and actually we've reconnected recently. But yeah, so that was cool, and that led to me getting hired when I moved to Vancouver with as a freelancer with Cassette, which is a huge ad agency, one of the best ad agencies in Canada. I ended up working with them for a time, doing commercials for like Ronald McDonald House, McDonald's All Day Breakfast, and like Chatter's Hair Salons, like a bunch of TELUS stuff. Like, yeah, so I worked with them for a while, and then I also worked with another agency called Dead Famous in Vancouver, who are great. They do a lot of work with credit unions in Ontario, and I just got a bunch of awards for some of their photography. They're awesome, really
Jesus
small
Christ.
boutique agency.
All this from Twitter.
All this from Twitter, and then
Like, you
also,
should be like the poster child for Twitter. Like, Twitter should be like, Dan, like, they should pay you.
It's been a trip,
This
right? And
this
then,
makes me want to go on Twitter.
Don't. It's over. You
No,
missed
I'm
it.
not going to. Just saying.
So also, so another thing that happened was this guy, my friend Devin Moore worked at this production company in Toronto called Blue Ant, who works with Chorus Network and a few other places, and he told the guy sitting in front of him, Josh Bowen, to follow me on Twitter. Josh was like, "Oh, I already follow this guy. Yeah, he's great." And then he reached out to me. Josh reached out to me and asked me to pitch a short cartoon for a show that they were putting together, and I did. I pitched this show called Giraffe Cops, which
Yes.
is exactly what it sounds like, and it got picked up. And it was just an animated short. We got 5 episodes, and it went on this show called Night Sweats that was on Cartoon Network Canada and Adult Swim on cable, and with Mondo as well on the online. And it was made by Chris Nielsen and Bart Batchelor, who I think just sold another show. They're 2 animators and comedy writers from Vancouver who are just beauty dudes, just the best guys. And yeah, Aaron Reed, Vancouver comedian, was on
Yeah,
the
he's
show.
hilarious.
There was some live action components. It was basically like 2 hosts, and Aaron had a character called he's so funny. He had a character where they did Art Corner, and then and then it would be like just short animations. And yeah, I wrote it with my roommate Pat Donovan, super funny guy. And yeah, so then I got my first thing on TV, and that was cool. And all that came from Twitter. And so then yeah, I got a message from somebody on Twitter. It was like their photo was a dog, and then it was just Lori McGinnis. And and they said, "Hey, I would really like to interview you. I'm really into like joke Twitter and the whole community, and how you guys are just putting jokes on Twitter for free. I think it's a crazy concept what you're doing." And I said, "Sure." He's like, "I'll come to Victoria and interview you if you want." I'm like, "Whatever, man. Sounds good." So they showed up and they got there, and it was a man. To my surprise,
Yeah, I was gonna
thought it
say,
was
because you said
I thought it was
Lori,
a
and
woman.
I definitely thought of a woman first.
Yeah, and it's spelt like my mom's name is Lori. It's spelt the same. So he showed up, and I'm like, "You got to change your photo from a dog. Like, I thought you were a woman until you got here. Like, short for Lawrence." Anyway, great guy. He sat down.
He
and
hates
interviewed me.
Lawrence so much that he's chose to be Lori.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, he's
Okay.
so he came in. He showed up with like a film crew and like lights and the whole thing. It was all way more legit than I was expecting. I'm like, oh, okay, this is the whole last thing. So he sat down and interviewed me, and I basically just told him everything I told you. And he was like, "Well, this is exactly what I'm looking for. Like, this is the story. I'm like, well, man, there's tons of other people just like me who are doing this. And he's like, well, where are they? I'm like, well, I know a lot of people in LA. And he's like, well, pack your bags. We're going to LA. And then
Fuck yeah.
I ended up producing a documentary with him, and it turned out to be, this was kind of the story. And a lot of people agreed to do it, who were great, like Alex
There were some
Sulkin from
big names in it, man.
yeah. We had Alex Sulkin from Family Guy. He wrote the Ted movies, and we had Damien Fahey from Family Guy, Andy Richter. Yeah, we Matt Selman from The Simpsons, who's, oh my God, Danny. Danny Zucker agreed to do it. It was great. It was a crazy experience. Crazy experience to just like walk onto the Warner lot with like all our gear and like walk into Andy Richter's office and just interview him for an hour.
Yeah.
Like, just such a nice guy. And since then he's let me come back to Conan a bunch of times, like many times, like, hey, come in the green room and hang out. And every time he's come out to introduce himself to the person I brought there, he's been wearing no pants. And it took me like, he's like in his full suit, but then no pants. It took until like the third time where I messaged him and I'm like, is that like a bit? He's like, yeah, man, it's a bit. Like, you think I was coming out? Anyway, yeah, man, it's been a trip. And so I have like tens of thousands of jokes written on Twitter, and I'd never really done stand-up. And so when I got sober, I just sort of needed a new outlet, and I wasn't really writing and I wasn't in advertising anymore, and I was just kind of restarted everything. And that documentary, by the way, yeah, it ended up being on Crave, so it is on Crave, and if you have HBO Canada, it'll pop up on there sometimes. And
It's still playing. I've seen it recently a couple times. Yeah.
What's cool is that we're actually also we're in all of the U.S. federal penitentiaries in their library of stuff you can rent. So my dream is that I get picked up to do a tour of the United States prisons. That would be ideal.
You look like the kind of guy that some people in prison would like to tuck in at night and cuddle with.
Listen, if I was in prison, I would be currency for sure.
For sure you would.
So
let's just say though, right now, for everybody listening who's like, I want to check this out. If we haven't made it clear yet, it's called Funny Tweets.
Yeah, Funny Tweets.
You can probably find that and pirate it or something. And
I am 240 pounds and I'm high on cocaine in the documentary.
Yeah,
I don't know if Lori knows that, but yeah, I was wrecked. I was high as shit during that documentary and all of my interviews. So yeah, man, it's been a crazy trip. And then so I guess when I got out of advertising was when sort of my life fell apart and everything burned down. I was living in Yaletown, this bougie ass neighborhood in Vancouver, and had a girlfriend who was just the sweetest, nicest person. And I was living two lives completely. I was going to work and maintaining this healthy relationship, and in actuality I was doing drugs every day, and I was like hiding cigarettes in the alley behind my house, like just this two completely different lives. And it seemed normal to me. Like, I had it so justified that like, I'm going to quit tomorrow. And then I'll be a good person. It was always, I'm going to quit tomorrow and then I'll be a good person. Like, I know I'm being bad, but I'm better than this. And all I have to do is quit. And I just never could do it. It took me.
It sounds like you were pretty much doing it by yourself too. Like, by
that time.
Yeah. Holy.
Yeah. And it transitioned into that. Like, I wasn't always like that.
It was party with your buddies, and then it turned into like, I'm fucked up all the time and I'm by myself.
That's how addiction works, right? Like, you set boundaries and then you piss all over them. Like, you don't mean to do it. Like, it's not, I think people think with addicts that they're just like, oh, these people made a choice to do drugs and now they live in a park. And like, it's just so oversimplified, because there are many, many steps that you go through as an average addict to get to that place. And my path didn't get that far, but I was certainly on it. I mean, I was only as safe as what I had around me to manipulate is really it. Like, if I didn't have people around me who I could trick into enabling me, I would have been completely on my own. And I had no, I mean, I was lucky enough to have family and friends who cared about me, So, I mean, like, it's like this, right? I'll say things like, well, I'd never do drugs. I wouldn't even say the word use. And I say it now. I wouldn't have said that when I was doing drugs. But, I mean, I'll say things like, I would never do drugs without drinking. But then that happens by I'm like, well, I'm going out drinking later anyway. I might as well just get the drugs first, so I have them already when I start drinking. That's the line of thinking, right? All it takes, man, is one time you go to the dealer's house and you grab the bag, and you're like, all it takes is like, well, I'll just do one now because I'm gonna be doing one in like half an hour anyway, right? And you're like, hey, can I do one here? And he's like, yep. And then all you need to do is do that once, and then you're 100% doing that every single time because you've opened that door, you've crossed that line that you set for yourself. And then it's like, well, I'm not going to use alone, right? It's like, well, no one else is pitching in, and I don't know if you've ever done drugs with a group of people, but it's really annoying to try, especially if you're not in control of the drugs. Like, oh my God, that's like my nightmare to even think about now, about like pitching in on drugs and having someone else being in control of them and trusting that person that they're not just doing it without you. Like, come on. So eventually I hate
multiple nostrils soggy bills too.
Yeah. Well, so we
from the
pitch
past.
in
From the past when I used to do drugs.
From the past, yes.
Yeah.
It's like I'll pitch in, but I'm also going to buy my own and have a secret bag too. You know what I mean? And that's how that goes until eventually you just stop pitching in and you just have the secret bag, and it's easier to be like, oh, I'm not doing drugs tonight, but you secretly are. And it just drives you more and more into the shadows, and you become more isolated. Like, I'm always surrounded by people, but I'm also isolated because I have so many secrets, and all those secrets keep me sick. And that's what they say, is secrets keep you sick. But it's because they keep me in my own little reality, in my own little world by myself. I'm the only person who knows about it, or so I think anyway. And it's just a really dark place, and it keeps going and going that way. And you know, the last straw for me was like, I had moved back to Victoria from Vancouver to like get clean and get sober, and I was living with family, and I had the house to myself for the weekend, and I wasn't going to AA. I was telling them that I was going to meetings, but I wasn't. But my plan was to start going. So to me, it made sense. The lie would hit the ground running, right? I'm like, well, I'm going to start going, and then they just won't know. I'll only be lying about the time. I won't be lying about whether or not I was going to. So like that makes sense to me at that time. I was just so dishonest, like lying through omission, just leaving stuff out. It's like, people, if you're just leaving stuff out of your stories, it's still fucking lying. You're lying by omission. You're purposely leaving shit out of your stories to frame it in a different way. That's still lying, FYI. So, you know, man, that's just how it went. And I had the house to myself that weekend, and I just was like, well, you know what? I haven't done drugs in like a week. I deserve to just do a little bit, you know what I mean? And so there's that
your reward. Your reward for sobriety is 2 drugs.
I'm rewarding myself with punishments, and we do it with food. We do it with all sorts of stuff, right? It's like, oh man, I ran every day this week. I'm gonna just go destroy myself with food, which I still do that. And you know what? I don't have much left. Get bent. I need a little something. So
for sure.
And so that's what happened. Is I picked up that half gram that day on like a Thursday or a Friday in the afternoon, and then I just didn't stop for 4 straight days. I like just picked up off more and more dealers. I like stole a bunch of money from my family. It was bad, dude. It was really a bad scene. And when I was I had this moment where there was no moves left to make, and there was nothing I could do, and I was at the end of it, and I wanted to stop. I didn't know how, and I just asked for help finally. And I asked somebody who I knew was in a 12-step program, and I asked them if they could take me to a meeting, and I'm like, I'm ready to
like
to
this
do
is like
this.
4 days into a coke bender. You're like, I'm going now.
Yeah. On the 4th day, like I stopped. Like I don't. I think I might have got to the point where I literally couldn't do anymore. Like I think I actually even had some left. But you know what's really sad? My last beer I ever drank was a Corona. It makes me. I feel like I should be allowed to go have one more. You know what I mean? Just because that's so whack.
You're doing what you just said you shouldn't do. You're rewarding with punishment.
Oh, no. I'm just kidding. I'm joking.
I know.
I have zero desire to. Yeah, but yeah. So I
relapse on Dos Equis.
Yeah, fuck, could you imagine? I go back out and it's Dos Equis or Soul. Fuck, dude. So yeah, man, that was it. And that was December 21st, 2017. And I haven't looked back. I have not drank or done drugs or anything. And everything has turned around since then. And, you know, I've gotten a lot of opportunities. I got a lot of opportunities when I was out drinking and doing drugs. Like I got offered to write a packet to be a staff writer on Late Night with Seth Meyers. I got offered, like all sorts of like TV pitches, things like that, all sorts of things. And I squandered them all, man, because I was more concerned with telling people I got all this cool shit happening for me than actually doing the work. I had no work.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to do anything. And so coming out of that and sort of rearranging my brain and doing step work in 12-step programs, which is essentially cognitive behavior therapy, rewiring pathways and stuff. I learned the value of work. I learned the value of myself. I learned the value of, not putting so much stock in what other people might think of me. I still have problems with that, but like nothing like before. And it allowed me to just be more present for my life and show up for these opportunities. And, I was more present when I did stand up, and I started to improve at it, and I got better. And now now it's been about 3 years of me really nonstop, other than pandemic stuff coming after it. And, I'm doing my first headline spots. I just headlined Comedy Monday Night in Calgary, which is a big deal to me. And
Yeah.
I had my first festival headline spot at the Yukon Comedy Festival that was canceled because of COVID. But, my first, I'm like out here in Alberta getting put on closed shows, where last time I was here, I was just lucky to be doing spots. And it's cool, man. It's really cool to see things coming along, and I feel like I have value, and I'm excited about it. And it's just a whole different thing now. And yeah, and then there's the whole thing with starting the podcast, and then that whole thing that happened.
Yeah, because you started a podcast with your sister. Did somebody lose a bet on that, or do you guys actually like each other?
Okay, that's actually not exactly true. So that podcast started. My podcast is called The Hate Locker.
Yeah.
It's
Is that named after that movie? What was it called? The Hurt Locker?
It is, yeah. The podcast was actually named by Chelsea Liu.
Okay, Chelsea's awesome.
Chelsea is awesome. She's great. She named that podcast. So what really happened was a friend of mine and a comedian from Texas, Patrick McClellan, approached me about doing a podcast together. This was in 2017, like just before I got sober. He came to me with this idea for a podcast that is currently The Hate Locker, which is where we just talk about things that we hate with a passionate yet fair vigor with a guest. And he came to me with the idea for it. It was called That's Not Ideal.
Yeah.
So it was the same thing, but he and I did it. And it just was weird. Like, we weren't putting it up on platforms. It was just being streamed, and it was really sketchy. We were both just so unreliable, and it wasn't really happening. But we did it. We had a handful of episodes. We did it for a while. And then what happened was Chelsea was supposed to be our guest, and Chelsea and I didn't know each other that well. We kind of knew each other, and I was just brand new sober, and I asked her to come on as a guest, and Patrick flaked and didn't do it, and she was really mad because she had like a bunch of shows. She canceled shows in order to do the podcast, and
yeah,
I was really upset because I thought she was going to be so perfect on it. And after he did that, I was really upset, and so I kind of broke up with him. Like, sort of was like, I don't really want to do this pod with you anymore. Me and him are friends. We're friends now. Now he's like he actually has a podcast called Lima Time, which is connected to the Houston Astros, and it's like their official podcast, and they have like hundreds of thousands of listeners and stuff. So things worked out well for him. But what I did was I asked Chelsea if she wanted to become my new co-host and do the same podcast, because I still wanted to do it. And she reluctantly said yes. And then we renamed it because he wanted to keep the name, which is also fine. And then we renamed it The Hate Locker, and we did it for about a year, I think, maybe not even, because then she moved to Vancouver, so she had to quit. She just didn't want to do it anymore.
Oh, I didn't know, dude. I don't really follow podcasts. Do one, don't follow them, don't listen to them. Only if I'm on it, pretty much.
Yeah, fair enough.
Confession. But every once in a while, I see something, I'm like, oh, I'll listen to that. That looks rad. But I did not know that you and Chelsea were doing it before she moved to Vancouver. I had no idea.
She was my co-host, and we became really dear friends for a minute. And she's actually one of my closest friends. But when she moved, I was like, well, who do I replace her with? And my sister had been like such a running gag on the show for so long, and I would bring her up all the time because we're so opposites. And I realized, I'm like, well, my sister has a background in radio. I wonder if she would actually like to do this. She works as a teacher, but she used to read the news on CBC, and she went to BCIT for it, and for journalism, broadcast journalism specifically. And anyway, I asked her, and she said yes, and I was like, cool. And then we had an episode where Sarah was the guest, and it was like a big deal because we talked about her all the time. She came on as a guest, and at the end of the episode, we announced that she was taking over as like an announcement. And then, the rest is history. And it's like me and her have become so close through it. And I really think like it's awesome to see her get to have her passion that she had when she was much younger come back into her life and be such a big part of her life now. Like, she loves our podcast. She loves doing it. She's got to meet like some of the best comics in Canada, and
Thank you. Yeah.
And you know what I mean, and like celebrities and all sorts of shit. Like, I mean, she's such a huge Big Brother fan, and we do of the show Big Brother, and we every year do a Big Brother episode with McCrae from Big Brother 16, and it's just really cool, man. And she loves it, and we love doing it together, and it's brought us like so much closer together. She's like my fucking best buddy now. It's
That's
great.
cool. And you guys have a great dynamic too. Like you guys are fucking hilarious. Like, and it's like, like your family, and you're like one of those fun families that just will say anything to each other. Like
we all get along.
Yeah, you just talk shit a lot, and like, yeah, no one gets upset. You just fucking
like
fuck
I will
with
be
each
like,
other.
shut the fuck up, like to her face. Like it's great.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah,
but in a fun way. Yeah, so
that's my family's kind of like that too. Like I was just thinking the other day, like I go over to my dad's house and like his neighbors, and it's all they do is sexual innuendos, like nonstop. Everything is just jokes about like fucking, and like it never ends. And I'm like,
sucking,
all right, I'm out of here.
Probably, yeah.
Sucking, fucking, shitting their pants. Like they're getting into their late 60s, 70s.
It's gonna be you. That's already you're mostly there. That's one of those guys.
I'm in a wheelchair and I shit my pants, so I can relate to a lot of the senior citizens around that complex.
Again, that wasn't me this time.
I don't know.
And then so over the pandemic, when the pandemic happened, we were with, it was before the pandemic, I'm not sure. We were with this network called Brain Freeze. Great little podcast network out of the Yukon, run by a guy named Richard Eden, who also is partially, he books the Yukon Comedy Festival. He's a great dude. He has an ad agency called Mammoth. They do great work.
I had no idea this much shit was going on up in the Yukon.
Yeah, dude, the Yukon is kind of dope. Like he has a bunch of podcasts from LA that he signed, the Goods from the Woods with Rivers Langley, who's awesome. They just won an award for the DC podcast. They're doing cool things. So we were with them, but this is right when sort of Comedy Here Often was budding, and they had the flagship podcast with Kevy and Alexi at Comedy Here Often, and that was it. That was the only podcast they had, and they were doing albums, and that was sort of it. And I think they had just started doing the soundstage show where we have a soundstage show like a live stand-up show. I think that was pretty much it. And so I messaged Kevy and asked about the podcast network. He actually was kind of rude to me. It's a funny thing that we go back. He was kind of shitty to me and has since apologized. I've been on their podcast a couple times now, and we've talked about it. But yeah, so I went to him and I said, hey, because I saw Alistair Ogden, who also works at Comedy Here Often now. He had a podcast called Cry With Me, and he announced that he was signing with Comedy Here Often. I'm like, oh, they're signing podcasts. I'm like, I would really like to get on board with them at ground level because they're in Vancouver. I really like what they were doing. And it made more sense for me to be with them for my stand-up career as well. If I ever wanted to do an album, like that's where I would want to do it. And I'm like, well, this makes more sense to me being with this podcast network in the Yukon. So I ended up meeting with them, and I was like, we would love to sign with you if that's something you wanted to do. And they talked about it, and then they signed us as well. So and then I think I fucked up with Andrea Jin came next, and then so you ruined the party again. I think with Bobby Werner and Randy Newmeyer, which is really picking up speed now as well and kind of blowing up. So yeah, I think there was 5 of us, and then I ended up talking to Jonathan Simkin, who is the president of 604 Records and also Nickelback's lawyer and former manager. It's a very interesting fellow. Yeah, and I ended up talking to him about.
Can I play some Nickelback on this podcast?
Yeah, definitely.
Sweet. Okay, cool. Let's see what happens.
I don't have legal permission to tell you to do that just because I work at the label.
Yeah.
But
the repercussions will come back on you.
Yeah, they'll come back on you. I'll say I was never here. I'll say
I have you on video, you fuck.
I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, so
too late.
I turned my video off.
I noticed. I noticed.
Listening, I'm talking to the people listening. So
this is great YouTube.
yeah, great YouTube fodder. So anyway, I talked to him about starting a podcast network because stand-up was all down and everyone was starting a podcast, and there's not a huge comedy podcast network in Canada. There's a couple small ones, but nothing really super big. And he liked the idea, and then he brought me on, and now I'm the podcast network director at 604 Records and Comedy Here Often. And that we started out with 5. I think we have 38 podcasts now. Some of the best comics in Canada across the way, including yourself.
Thanks,
your
man.
podcast is fantastic. And
this one right here, we're on right now.
Right
you might want to sit down for this motherfucking podcast.
Right. Helped you develop this podcast and many others, and it's been a really, really fun time. And we're one of our podcasts has absolutely exploded. High School Sucked, which is going to bring us all to riches and fame. They're in the top 20 in the U.S.
Oh, really?
They were ahead of Your Mom's House last week, which is pretty crazy. They've had some pretty crazy guests. Had Nikki Glazer, Beth Stelling, half of the kids in the hall have been on it. It's with Darcy Michael and Jane Stanton, and so that one is kind of our numbers are now it's good. Like things are looking really good across the board for our whole network, and we're growing, and we now have our own channel on iHeart, and we will be on Sirius Radio very soon, and it's going really well. Things are great, and now our stand-up is picking up as well at Comedy Here Often.
Mine isn't.
Well, no, your stand-up is, your sit-down is great, though. Your sit-down.
Oh, thank you.
You're absolutely killing it in the chair. We're booking shows at the Hollywood Theater in Vancouver now.
Yeah, I saw that. That's a sick spot, too.
Yeah, we just did. It's an absolutely beautiful, renovated, like old Art Deco theater. We just did a show with the last 4 Juno winners.
That's dope.
Dave Merhesh and Ivan Decker, Sophie Buttle, and Jacob Samuel. And our next one's with Phil Hanley. And now we've also partnered with Hecklers in Victoria, which is a beloved, one of the best clubs in the country, the best non-club club in the country. It's just an absolute, I've been special. There.
It's great.
Special place where magic happens. And so now we're doing a late show out of there, and we're filming everything. And we've got so much content. TikTok is blowing up with stand-up clips. It's all very, very exciting, man. It's really cool. And it all started when I fucking signed up for that Twitter account 11 years ago on this day. My whole life changed. I now don't have a day job anymore that isn't comedy. My whole life is comedy now because I did that.
And how much did you get? A lot of blowjobs?
Do I get a lot of blowjobs?
Yeah.
No,
like more than when you were a pharmacist on coke?
I'm pretty monogamous.
Oh, yeah.
The truth. I'm not really like.
So you just suck your own dick? You try to.
Yeah. It's just me. It's just me and the old mouse. Just me and the old face hole. Sorry, this hasn't been very funny at all. This has just been me talking about myself for like a fucking hour.
But that's kind of. But I think that's all right because it's a good story, and it's like I think it's cool that I just randomly or maybe not coincidentally or the stars aligned that I caught you on this day. Like this cool anniversary.
Yeah, it's weird, right? For sure. Yeah, it's crazy.
And I mean, remember, like I reached out to you and I was like going to ask you about like what microphone I should get. And that's pretty much how I ended up on this network.
Yeah.
So it kind of falls in line with that. Like, I don't know. And then like it goes another way. But I mean, part of the reason why you wanted me to do this was you're like, it'll bring a cool voice of having inspiring stories. And I think I was going into this maybe like, let's just be fucking idiots and tell jokes. But I would say everything you just shared was it's a really inspiring story, man. Like, it's really like it inspired me. Like I've watched that funny tweet so many times. It inspired me to go on TikTok. I did 3 posts, didn't go viral, stopped. I need more inspiration.
It's man, I none of this happens if I don't stop drinking and doing drugs as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like none of this happens. Yeah. I don't think I had a year left in me, to be honest.
You would have died, yeah.
I was so
you're coughing up blood, dude. You couldn't go upstairs like without.
Totally. And now I'm training for an Ironman. So
yeah, you're gonna be. I thought Iron Man died in the franchise. Are you gonna do like an early?
I'm just carving a hole in my chest, training for an Ironman, making a mask out of beer cases.
Like the current Iron Man, you had a huge coke problem when you were younger, and you're a beautiful brunette.
Yes, absolutely.
Just like Robert Downey Jr.
I've also got a thing for Gwyneth Paltrow. But I was in such terrible shape, and now I ran my first marathon this year. I just did an ultra, like 270 kilometer bike ride in one day, like a month ago.
Yeah, I seen that. It's insane, man. Like you're like the Forrest Gump of biking.
Forrest Gump.
You just hop on and you keep going, and it leads you on the next adventure.
It was really tough. But yeah, so I mean, it's just such a turnaround, like from what my life used to be. I feel, and I think most importantly, my relationships with like my family and my friends are so much more like non-transactional. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like everything, like the disease of addiction is so self-centered. It's such a self-centered disease where you just live in your own world all the time, and you're just constantly seeing what you can get from people and thinking people are trying to get stuff from you, and that's it. You don't have any sense of self, so you don't see why anyone could like you. So you live your whole like that was me as a little kid, right? Like it was before I ever did drugs. I just never really. I always thought I had to trick people into liking me.
Yeah.
Like I have to be the funny guy. I have to be funny or else people won't like me. I have to be, and then, when it's like trying to regulate my feelings all the time. And it's like, that's what drugs and alcohol did. It's like, if I just did drugs and drank, I knew exactly how I was going to feel. I knew exactly, I would feel a certain way that people like me because I'm fun, having a good time. I'm funny when I'm drunk, blah, 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 this and that. Right. And it's like, now I'm learning to feel like I'm like just enough, just the way that I am, and it's
Fuck
led
yeah,
me
you
to,
are, dude. You're
man,
fucking.
it's leading me to like, yeah, man, like I just call my parents up to see how they're doing. I call my sisters up just to see how they're doing.
Whereas before you're like, can I
You
borrow
know,
some money? Or
yeah,
like,
totally. I would
yeah,
never even think to contact with them unless I'm trying to get
needed
something out of them,
something.
whether that be like even if that means like, again, when I say get stuff out of people, it doesn't always mean like physical stuff. It's even like adoration or like pity or like whatever. Like you're
Yeah,
still just trying to get something from. I wouldn't just call to be like, hey, how are you? Here's what's
yeah.
going on with me. Blah blah. That's the best part of this whole thing that rewarding nature of um, what my relationships with people look like. I have way less friends now, but no one, everyone in my life lifts me up. I don't have anyone in my life who is like, I don't know, like dragging me down in any way. So
Yeah,
yeah,
man.
except for you. But
Yeah,
other
yeah,
than
yeah.
that,
Well,
yeah,
you just, yeah. I mean, you have to push me, and I'm just kind of slowing you
yeah,
down. I wouldn't say I'm
yeah.
dragging
That's
you
right.
down.
Yeah, if anything, you're dragging me along.
Dragging you along, yes. When we go downhill. But
Yes.
I would say I got to know you after your darkest days were behind you. I think it's safe to say after
Mhm.
you were like sort of over your I think I really got to know you since you were sober.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think
Whoops.
you've ever seen me drunk before. I don't think.
No, and I
Maybe
think
a little
it's
bit, but not really.
pretty amazing because like some of the characteristics and shit you're talking about, like just basically being like lying and like kind of shady. Like I would never
Mhm.
expect that from you. Like you're a stand up
No,
rad dude, and
I can't lie about anything anymore, man. It's actually kind of a hassle sometimes. Like when I can't stay mad at people, it's like, oh, the opposite of resentment is compassion, and I have to understand people. It's like, fuck. Even if you
yeah.
did me wrong, it's like you didn't mean to like hurt me. You're just like going through your own shit, right? Like
But that's good. That makes
it
you a
is. No,
better
it's really good.
human. It gives you
It's
more
good.
peace.
It's also frustrating sometimes, but yeah, it's mostly good.
Yeah, because you know the other side of just being fucking pissed off. And
Mhm.
I want to do something here. So, as I was saying, I'm getting very tired of fucking editing because, especially my promo videos that I put a lot of time into, they've been taking me up to 20 hours lately, and that's just
Holy shit.
insane. So I'm gonna try something today where I'm just gonna do rapid fire questions,
Okay.
and that's gonna be my promo video, and I'm gonna start them right now. Are you ready to go?
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Let's do it.
Okay. Mark from Blink 182 was on your podcast. Do you think that's how he got cancer?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Your girlfriend broke up with you recently. Are you still sad? And why did she break up with you?
Oh my God. Yeah, I am still sad. I'm sad today. Actually, specifically, I'm having a tough day with that today because I had a dream about her last night, and now I'm sad about it today. I've been better though. I think she broke up with me because she just didn't want to be tied down to anybody. I
You're
also think, yeah,
you're a
that's the
good man.
reason she gave me. So that's all I can say. I can't speculate otherwise.
I don't think this is gonna make for good promo. I feel bad. These questions are
No,
horrible.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay, what else do I got? Oh, you ride your bike long distances and you're kind of a moron. Would you say it's fair to call you the Forrest Gump of bike riding? I've already done this.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair. Yes, I definitely think it's fair to call me the Forrest Gump of bicycle riding. Yes.
Perfect. Dan Duvall, any relation to Robert and or Shelley Duvall? You kind of look
Not
like
that,
olive oil.
not that I can legally say.
Okay. You have a lot of stupid tattoos. You ever thought of getting a stupid face tattoo?
I thought
hold on,
about
wait.
getting-
I mean, have you ever thought about getting a tattoo of your stupid face on your body?
Yeah, I would get a tattoo of my face on my own ass, I think.
Yeah, yes.
I actually
like
think
a-
I would do that. But like really well done, like a beautiful portrait of my own face on my ass.
Like on a cheek, or would you incorporate the?
Where
crack
else am I
into
going to put it? Right on the hole?
Well, both cheeks.
What if I got my face on my tongue in my own butthole?
That's the end of these stupid questions. I'm probably gonna edit that part out. Fuck, that didn't work at all.
Great, cool. Sorry about that. Yeah. She dumped me. I'm having a hard day with it.
yeah. Why did I even ask that? What a dick fucking question.
It's okay. I don't mind. I think she actually, off the record, I think she broke up with me because I think a big part of it was my sobriety was not an easy thing. I don't think it's an easy thing for other people to deal with.
Oh, because they drink and do drugs and stuff.
Yeah, and I just like, I don't know, you have to think about like, oh man, am I going to be with this person who just never drinks or smokes weed with me ever? Like that's kind of like, I get it. Like I think that's a reasonable thing to not want to do something before. So I think that was part of it. And also I didn't handle some stuff very well. Yep. She broke up with me and I was like, no, you don't want to do that. I was like, you don't want to do that. Here's a bunch of reasons why not. I like tried to fight for her and it like did not work out at all.
I know, yeah.
I didn't respect her boundaries very well because I had a bit of a meltdown. But I mean, it's a two-way street, right? So whatever.
You're a handsome man. You're a successful man. You're a driven man. You're an inspiring man. You're a good man. So, you know, there'll be another lady around the corner, or maybe a guy in a wheelchair wearing a Turbo Yugen shirt. The big rainbow.
I could say the same for you, pal. Do you have a girlfriend these days? Are you dating
No. I recently went on Bumble and this is my thing, and this is gonna sound bad, but the people that match with me are I'm way out of their league in my opinion. Now, yeah. And I think like they see this and they're like, we could never get a face like that unless it's attached to a wheelchair. It's like, so we have a chance. And I'm like, no. You still don't have a fucking chance. But I'm going for like supermodels. But I had a couple really good people. I read their profiles. Hot blondes, which I like. Matched with me last night and one sent me a message. So we'll see what happens. But
nice. You let them know you're in a wheelchair in it, or is that a surprise for them?
I have a new bit about that actually, where it's like you just show up to the date and you're like, crazy story.
Yeah.
I haven't even had time to like update my Bumble pictures.
That's actually so funny. You show up and you're like, hey, you're not gonna believe what happened on the way here.
Yeah. And obviously make it like, so I was like, I ran in this building, I saved 4 kids, but like, you know, the fucking foundation fell on my back, and luckily like the grandma burnt to death, but I managed to salvage her wheelchair and roll over here.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, and that's just how much I'm dedicated to starting this relationship with you.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and then I talk about how that would be like cripple fishing somebody, and like how I wouldn't really be cool if that happened to me. Like a cripple fish.
A crip fish.
Yeah, a crip fish. Yeah.
You crip fish me.
Yes. Anyways, I'm working on it. But yeah.
Cool, man.
But no, I'm single. Hey, just throwing it out to all the ladies out there, all the listeners. Yep, still single over here. Just single and ready to eat vegan food and pussy.
Yeah, he's fine. Date him. He's fine. That's it. That's what I have to say.
It's not contagious.
He's fine.
You can sit on my lap when your legs get tired.
Yeah, for sure. Or even when they're not. Because
or when they're not.
Can't even feel yours, so it's fine. Yeah,
or when my wiener is hard.
Yeah, does that happen? Does it still, can you?
Oh, I can still get boners. Officially on this, I can get boners. And fuck.
Can you feel it?
I can feel it. It doesn't, not 100% of what I used to feel. That means I last a lot longer than I used to.
Yeah, right on. All right. Yeah. So that's what I got to do then. I got to get crippled.
Yeah.
Can I say crippled? Are we allowed to say crippled? What's the deal there?
I got no problem with it.
Okay. I don't have a problem. I got into it with somebody.
But if you were standing up saying it, like fucking, I'd have a problem with it.
It's different. It's different because I'm on your level right now.
Yes, totally.
Have you ever played wheelchair basketball?
I've wheelchair jousted.
What? That's crazy. Tell me about it.
There was a group of people called DIP, Drunk in Public, that I stumbled upon through mutual friends, and it was insane. You can still find the videos online. Don't do it. Maybe do. But yeah, me and a guy named Buzo who'd busted his a major bone in his leg. I don't even know what it was, but he like maybe his femur, like skateboarding. I just showed this party and he was in a wheelchair. And it was just like, I was like, have you ever shotgunned a beer in a wheelie? I was like, have you ever chugged a beer in a wheelie? And then like next time I went back there, he's like, have you shotgunned a beer in a wheelie? And it just took off. Like,
it escalated. Yeah.
Let's drop in on that quarter pipe.
Do you want to live in a park with me for a month?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it came down to probably our best idea was we both each had one of his crutches with a boxing glove on the end of each of them.
That's what it was?
Yeah. And then a friend behind each of us running as fast as they could, and we jousted. Yeah. And it always, the drunkest guy always lost.
Did you win?
I won 1 out of 3.
You went 3 times.
Yeah, 2 one night. I think
somebody push you?
Yeah, we had people running behind us, friends, as fast as they could go.
That's fucking the most fun thing I've ever heard in my life, dude. If I got to push you, that's so fun.
I'm definitely not opposed to doing it again if you can find somebody in a wheelchair anywhere the next time we're hanging out. Or I can
you know who has a wheelchair is our mutual friend and comedian Shane Priestley. We could just put him in one and do it.
Let's do that, or put you in it, and then I can maybe cripple you.
Absolutely not.
Okay, fine.
Although I'd last longer when I'm fucking now, so maybe.
You said you wanted it before. Another thing we did too is we did rock paper scissors. Then you got shot with a pellet gun rifle.
Okay.
And then, but I kind of had him going where I was like, all right, you get shot in the leg. And it took him probably 20 minutes to realize like I don't feel pain in my legs. And he was just taking these fucking shots to the legs, like point blank. And then it was like, then I'm like, how about the stomach? And then it was the armpit. And I can't really feel pain in my armpits. So we're getting shot with a pellet gun.
How come from the same injury?
Yeah, I'm about chest down.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we ended up doing it in the neck when he finally figured out that I could feel my neck. We're getting shot in the side of the neck. And then my friend, I remember the next day, he's like, you're an idiot. You could have got hit the jugular. I'm like, jugular's right here. And he's like, no, it's not. They're right here. I'm like,
that's your windpipe, you moron.
So basically, like the target was drawn over our jugular. He's like, I'm like, stupid. This was many, many years ago. But
yeah, okay. Yeah, it was last week.
It was last night, actually.
Yeah, I actually got to get back. He's in my yard right now.
Yeah. I think it was about 15 or 20 years ago. But yeah, man. Well, what's the plan for the rest of the day? You got comedy tonight too?
Yeah, I do. I'm at the comic strip tonight at West Edmonton Mall.
Oh, sweet. That's a cool gig.
And then I'm doing another podcast on the network tonight with Kian Beatty and Brad Semituk. Your parents watched this, where they watch old movies from like the 80s and 90s and talk about why our parents are all toxic because we grew up watching those movies. I'm old enough to be their dad.
Yeah.
They're 20 and we watched Commando.
So you've already seen that when you were a kid multiple times.
Yeah, I watched Commando a million times as a kid.
With Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yes, it has the best Arnold Schwarzenegger line from a movie, in my opinion, in it. Where he's trying to convince the bad guy, Bennett, who for some reason is dressed exactly like Freddie Mercury.
Yeah.
He's trying to convince him to put the gun down and fight him with a knife. And he's like, you don't need the gun, Bennett. You're tough. And he's like, come on, Bennett, take the knife, stick the knife in me. Take a look into these eyes and see what's going on in there as you turn it. And then when he kills him at the end, he throws a pipe across the room and it sticks through his chest and into this radiator thing, and all the steam comes off. And
yes.
Let off some steam, Bennett.
And a young Alyssa Milano was on that.
Young Alyssa Milano in there, yeah.
It took a little break from Who's the Boss. I had a big crush on her back then.
I think that was before Who's the Boss.
Was it?
She was super young she was like a little kid in Commando.
Who'll be next?
Yeah, right on. Cool, man.
Okay, buddy. Well, yeah, fuck off.
This has been great. Fuck yourself. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for letting me yammer on for hours about nothing. I appreciate it.
No, you talked a little bit about good stuff, man, and I think it'll be inspiring to the listeners. And if anyone's, look at Dan. If you're struggling with addiction, I bet there might be some people on here.
Hey, if you're struggling with addiction, find me on social media and message me. I'll talk to you, like straight up, like not actually a joke. You can't doing it. Trying to beat addiction by myself was a futile effort that I tried for years, and it wasn't until I started talking to other people about it that I actually got help. So, strength and vulnerability, my friends. It's the first. They say the first step is admitting you have a problem, and that is very true. So, it.
And if you're sort of lacking direction in your life and looking for a new career, start telling jokes on Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah, in 2010.
11 years ago.
Yeah, they stopped hiring people from there. But it was cool for a while.
When you heading back to Vancouver Island?
Monday, I think.
Okay, cool. I'm headed home Monday, I think, but if I stay around a little longer, maybe we'll catch up while I'm still there. But thanks for coming on, man. Thanks for doing all you do with Comedy Here Often, and just happy to be bros, man.
Me too, brother. Love you very much.
Love you too. Enjoy Alberta.
Thanks. Bye.
Crush it tonight. Over.
Over.
Alright. Tell me you're alright. Almost there. Barely here. I knew that this day would have to come, wailing on the wall, watching giants fall. I know there's a message to receive, written in debris. It's really hard to see. The loss of innocence means nothing in a new world. All our hands are red, everyone is guilty. Just revenge, become what they condemn. Mirror image man, hands across America, let's catch contact hysteria. Our flag erects from broken homes, July 4th forevermore. Colors of democracy fly from every SUV. The misspelled bumper stickers here, where did all the unknowns do? Let's go, numbers on the news, this time with familiar names, this time unfamiliar ground. This reality in your backyard, so the fences fall. Will you redefine them all? Will you choose shelter or empathy? The world we share has come too close. We put us blown from glass, we collect stone.